Okay, welcome back. Um, we had a little fun break right there, but we're back to the second half of this, and this second half is probably not actually half, it's probably like a third of what we have left. Um, but really we just kind of wanted to run through the numbers a little bit, give some more tangible examples, and then at the end kind of let you have the floor, talk to us about what kind of advice you have for us. And yeah, we'll go ahead and just roll with it. So before we jump in here, I just kind of want to draw everyone's attention to the side. Um, the right side of the screen here has these numbers that I did some research and I went through the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and then the ADEA, which is a dental data and statistics website. Um, Pulled these numbers from it and tried to use that for what we're going to talk about in the next few slides, which I didn't want to be throwing out these fake numbers that were saying, oh, yeah, you're going to make $10 trillion. Let's pretend like we're going to do that, right? No, we're going to pull real numbers from the student loans that we have and these salaries that are associate salaries, ownership salaries, and talk about the benefits of those. So cool. The scenario that we have is that we have this out-of-state student from UTESCA. That's my school. It's We're using that because that's me, and I've got these loans. These are the loans that I'll be having when I graduate from here. And then we're assuming that the student, in this scenario, they actually have some loans from their undergraduate as well. We're not just going to assume that they had some inheritance that paid for those loans or whatever. And yeah, we'll go ahead and compare the two. So as we move forward, we're only using the average numbers. We're not saying, oh, you could hit this, but you have to be in the 99.999 percentile, This is very, average standard dentist. This is what you're going to be making. So, all right, Cody, what do you think? So we've got in the
Here's your reminder.
Alexa, stop.
This isn't going top of the charts anymore.
Yep, yeah. As you can see, I'm not a professional video maker interviewer. Not gonna be on Fox News or NBC anytime soon.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So my opinion on this, which by the way, our break was so long, I had to put on a sweatshirt. I got cold. Um, but, so if total debt's 330,000, I mean, looking at the situation, an average associate makes 130,000 a year pre-tax. Okay. Then after that, on average, the associate makes 172,000 every year. Okay. How long does it take to pay off? Well, considering we actually need to consider taxes. And again, this is where my disclosure comes in, where meet with your CPA, licensed tax professional, and they'll go through this more in depth and more accurately. Now, as an associate, we're not going to make any sort of 1099 or business income. And what 1099 or business income provides is the ability to write off expenses on your taxes. So, um, business owners, you've probably heard of businesses not paying taxes or business owners not paying taxes. And I know a doctor who makes, uh, he makes about 200 to 250,000 a year, pays $0 in taxes. Why? Because he's a business owner and he's writing off his business expenses against his income, so the IRS doesn't tax him. Now, in this case, an associate is paid on a W-2 basis, which means they're an employee, which means they have no ability to write off anything off of their expenses. So things like gas mileage, meals, equipment, and that's going to be the business owner's expense. So in this case, $130,000, depending on if we're single or married, and depending on the state we live in, we could be paying as little as 20% taxes. And in terms of our actual tax rate, we could be paying 30 or 40 if we're in a higher tax state and if our spouse makes income. But let's say for simplicity, let's say it's a 25% tax. So that runs about $37,000 in taxes, just taxes. So we're paying 25% tax. After that, we're actually pulling in about $94,000. Okay. If we know we need to pay, and the following year, same thing. We took 25% of 172. And actually, I'll just do this on a calculator, so that's a lot faster. $43,000 in taxes. Now in this case, minus 172, oops, 172. Okay, in this case, we're left with 129 grand a year. We're probably going to pay for things like health insurance, 401k contributions. I mean, dental insurance. No, we don't need dental insurance if we're a dentist. Vision, everything. If we're paying for all those other deductions, then our take home isn't $10,000 after tax per month. It'll be closer to maybe $8,000 or $9,000 after tax a month. Again, still a fantastic income. Now, if we're taking home $8,000 after taxes and deductions, now let's say we need a place to live. These days, let's say you're renting. I mean, 1,500 to $2,000. That's like pretty base level for housing these days. If you're a single person, your roommate, maybe you can pay 900, but 1,500 to $2,000. So, and if we buy a house, maybe 2,500 to $3,000 if we're at a starter home. So let's say we do that and we're at 2,500. Well, now we're left with 5,500 a month. Okay. How much do you think, as far as food bill goes, most of my clients, they're spending around $600-700 a month on food. If we have kids, probably more. So let's take out $600 from that. We're left with 4,900. So we start to see this get shaved off in a way, and you start to realize what I mentioned earlier, an associate will never make enough to do everything I want to do. They just won't. Now it's like, okay, we have 4,900 bucks left. What else should we do? Okay, well, we probably need cars. So we make a car payment. Let's say it's 500 bucks a month for a car payment. Let's say we pay 500 bucks a month on gas, and we keep going down the line. And let's say every other expense is 900. Well, we're left with $3,000 a month. So this huge income suddenly gets shaven down to this really small leftover discretionary income, savings or spending. So that $3,000 we might use to have fun because you guys have been studying for 4 years of undergrad and then 3 or 4 years of dental school. It's like, we want to go have adventures. Maybe we spend half of that. So we're left with 1,500 bucks. Well, if we're going to use that on student loans, sorry, that's going to take a long time. You're only putting 18 grand a year towards that loan. So if we want to pay off the loans quickly, I mean, realistically, unless you're going to live under a rock, which is possible, but unlikely, you're probably going to have a spouse who's like, I'm tired of living like a college student for the last 20 years. If you want to have kids, if you want to have a house, it's like, sorry, we might not have that much discretionary income to put towards the loan. So this might take 20, 30 years to pay down.
Right.
And again, yeah. So that's kind of my 2 cents on being an associate. It's not bad. You could still live a fantastic life. It's just going to take longer.
Right. And yeah, and I think that's a really good point that you put here, right? Like, there are all these normal expenses that we have. They might not take a huge chunk of the pie, but there's lots of them that take a small chunk of the pie. And when you add them all up in the long run, you end up with a lot less than what the take home pay makes you think you actually have, right? And so it does, running through those numbers, right? Running through these assessments, not only with a professional, but at home on your own, doing your own budgeting, doing your own, projections for the future, really can help you understand, okay, this is the benchmark of how much I would need to be making to be able to spend or purchase or live the certain lifestyle that I'm hoping to achieve. And I think that running through that scenario, it's really easy to see, like you're saying, it takes probably 20 years, 20, 25 years, 18 years to pay off these loans. And are you able to do the things that you were hoping to do in that time period? in that 20-year period, are you also able to go see the Grand Canyon if you wanted to? Are you also able to, I don't know, purchase that gift for your child if you wanted to, or do these other things that unfortunately they just cost money, right? And so the reality of it is that we do have to dedicate the funds towards certain things, and paying off this debt just wouldn't necessarily be our top priority.
Yes, and I hate saying this. Well, it's a sad number, because most people will never reach it, and if they do, it's going to take both spouses working. But a household income of $300,000 is what I've seen in my personal experience. It depends on the state, but in we're talking not a California, not a New York, a normal state.
Mhm.
um, if we're making 300 grand pre-tax as a household, we will have the freedom to do everything we want to do.
Right.
Uh, so that's just something that I've seen anecdotally. Doesn't mean that holds any weight, but I mean, after going through all the expenses that I just talked about, it gives you enough free cash flow to save, adventure, give, live
Right.
life a little bit.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's also a good point that you make, right? Like, it gives you the opportunity to do with the money what you want, right? And a lot of people want to be able to give to other people and give opportunity to other people as well, especially in the healthcare field. A lot of us get into it because we want to um, be in a career that where we are feeling like we're helping people out and making a difference. And so one of the things that has been awesome for me to see is that um, the more that you tend to earn, the more that you have the ability to decide to give to other people that are in need as well, and help people out in that way too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I'm not saying you have to do that. That's just one thing that I've found to be kind of cool and interesting while we go through this and while I learn and evolve through this. So,
Yeah, you might give all your money or you might have a Ferrari collection. And either way, it's pretty cool. You have the choice.
right, right.
So,
Um, okay, so this is the other scenario. Same same student, same student loans. The only difference is that they paid for a practice. So they're a practice owner now. Still running average numbers here. And just so you guys know, I did some quick calculations to give like a rough estimate of what you would pay for a practice. But generally speaking, we get into this in different meetings, but the way that you value a practice, some quick numbers based off of EBITDA, based off of all that, we came up with the number that is $750,000 to purchase the practice. And that, or sorry, $650,000 to pay for the practice, and the practice produces 750. You are producing and making 750 a year, right? These are fairly conservative estimates on how the dental market runs. So, Cody.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, just looking at this, we can look at just a couple of numbers here. And thank you, John, for doing the math. It's one of those where I want to focus and hone in for a second on the practice produces $750,000 with 60% overhead. So 60% expenses. That means left over, we got $300,000 from the businesses. Essentially, that's the profit.
Mhm.
The owner gets to take that home. They get to pay bonuses. They get to invest it in the business, whatever they want to do. That's 300 grand extra. In this case, we're saying they take it home. Now, a couple things to consider is with the business, we have the power to write off that 60% overhead. We don't have to pay as much taxes as somebody who earned $300,000 on a W 2. On a W 2, you can't write things off. And the physician that I work with, who I mentioned earlier, who makes 200,000 to 250,000 a year, well, their business It produces about $1 million a year in total revenue. He takes home 200 to 250. He pays $0 in taxes because he has all sorts of equipment. And we don't have to dive into this, but equipment, we can write off what's called depreciation. That's one example of a write-off. And every year, your equipment technically will lose value, and you can take that lost value and run it against your income and actually subtract it from your income so the IRS charges you less. So if you have all of this overhead from staff you have to pay, all of this equipment, all of this depreciation, all of this marketing, I mean, every expense you put towards your business is another tax write-off. Well, in this case, we're going to pay a lot less in taxes than somebody who's making 300,000 on W-2. So it's something to consider. We have more available cash flow. Okay. Now, again, consult the CPA. They'll dive deeper into the specifics. But in this case, if we had a salary outside of the business income of $183,000 and we pay ourselves a $300,000 distribution as a business owner, we're making $483,000. A lot of that is tax advantaged. And with that, I mean, if we took the same numbers, this tax will be a little higher. Let's say the tax is 35% total. So if we're paying 35% tax on 483,000, then we have left over $313,000. In the last example, we spent like $111,000 as I was going through all the expenses per year. Well, we have left over $200,000 a year. That's about $17,000 a month in this example. Whereas in the other one, we have $1,500 a month. So if we have 17,
that's more than a 10 times increase.
Totally. Yeah, 10 times increase. And we didn't get 10 times the loans. We didn't get $3.3 million of total loans. We got 650 extra, but we 10x'd our money. Exactly. So if we can take that out to the year, $200,000, let's say you really just honed in every surplus dollar we're going to put towards debt, $200,000 a year. I mean, assuming no interest, all this debt's gone in 5 years. With interest, maybe closer to 7 to 8. So it's like we could pay off our loans over 20 or 30 years or pay them off in 7 or 8. And this is what we alluded to earlier, where getting debt in the case where you can generate, where you can leverage it, start a business, will generate the ability to pay off the old debt even faster and the new debt. And one thing that you mentioned, John, earlier is the practice also accrues value. It's not like you just get this loan and you have to pay it off and you're left with nothing. I mean, your practice is worth something. So not only did you get all this cash and pay off your loans, now you have this entity that could be worth $1 million, depending on, how you might value a dental practice, and you can sell that one day. And it's like, you're making way more than what you spent.
Right. Right. No, that's a really good point. And that's something that we didn't put here on the slides, but it's another added bonus to being an owner is that when you pay off your student loans, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that when you pay off your student loans, you don't gain any additional value from paying them off, right? But when you pay off a practice loan, let's say, I mean, we've got the 650 that we're paying off for this practice, right? And this practice is valued at, or this practice produces 750. So if we sell it at 750 and we have to pay off 650, that means we only earn $100,000. But the more that we pay off that loan, if we pay off half of that loan, we gain half of that. We gain that value in earned value of the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, when it comes down to it, if I were to pay off the entire loan, nothing changes over those years when I pay off the loan, and then I sell it as $750,000. I gain $750,000. I don't gain $100,000 like in the beginning of that loan.
Totally. Yes. And the student loans, I mean, I guess the one argument that could be made in paying those off sooner, I mean, either way, it won't matter. Paying either of them off might be helpful. to increase your debt to income ratio so you could get a mortgage on a house, like
Right.
a little bit easier. That might help, but other than that, you nailed it on the head. You pay down that practice loan, and you have this equity. You have an entity. It's like buying a house and paying off the mortgage. Now you have a house. You can sell that thing, and your practice is probably going to be worth more than what you bought it for if you're really putting effort into it, building up goodwill, building up clientele. So yeah, I think you nailed it on the head.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that um it's definitely scary and intimidating to see large numbers like this. I mean, I don't want anyone to feel like, oh man, I'm so stupid because I get scared at seeing these big numbers. Like it's very natural, it's very normal to see a number like this, be very intimidated by it. But ultimately, when you look at it, it's more about that debt to income ratio rather than the total amount of debt that you have, right? If you have a ratio that far exceeds the level of debt that you have, you'll be able to pay that debt off, even if that debt has a higher value,
Mhm.
dollar value or dollar sign in front of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's one of those where and if these do look like large numbers, that's okay. Because for everyone starting a business, these types of numbers do look big, and especially those who don't come from wealth. And that's not a bad thing. It's scary and exciting, but one really easy way to shift your mindset on this. I mean, I've been studying for years what makes rich people rich and poor people poor, and the rich person believes they're rich and the poor person believes they're poor. I mean, you can give a poor man $1 million, and oftentimes they'll be poor again because they have a poor man's mindset. They'll spend it all, they'll get rid of it. But you take away like a Mark Cuban or a Jeff Bezos or a Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all those guys. You take away all their money, I'm willing to bet they'll make it back. So it's one of those things where if these look like large numbers, maybe acquire a mentor who's achieving these numbers. Uh, Join a business group. Uh, find a network and build I guess a center of influence of people who are achieving these numbers. And then you'll quickly realize, okay, these are totally attainable. It's all about my mindset. That's
Right.
really it.
Right. And
And
that's
opportunity.
that's the other thing that I love about simply the numbers that we're putting up is that, 60% overhead, that's very average for dentists, right? Um, the range is usually from 50 to 70, depending on how many tools and gadgets you want to have. Oh, did not mean to press upgrade. I meant to press exit. Sorry about that, guys. Once again, I'm not an expert at this interview stuff. Um, but yeah, anyways, I mean, these numbers are very, very average, right? For our industry. I didn't want to put up there something that's ridiculous and not obtainable. This is still, you're able to still have your normal dentist schedule, normal desirable schedule, and obtain these numbers. So now we're coming up to kind of the last portion of our meeting here. It's good because I'm not willing to upgrade because, I'm on student loans. Um, so we're
No,
coming to the last.
this
What
is
was
leverage. This is the $10 for Zoom is leverage. It's going to help you.
that? So are there other opportunities that you kind of want to talk to us about? I know that, you can invest in the stock market, you can do these other things. What is your thought behind that?
Yeah. Um, this is the best part about my job and what I love the most about my job. So my job's simple. I sit down with individuals and business owners. I identify their goals and quantify them and build a roadmap showing them how to get there. I mean, it's as simple as that. We build out a financial plan. It's a financial roadmap. That roadmap shows them month by month and year by year what they need to do to hit their goals. So in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they're not looking back thinking, I should have done it differently. We map out all the options and show you what you need to do. And that's what a good financial planner should be doing. When it comes to alternative options, there's plenty, and there's more. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Um, And with that, investing all your money in your business, that might be the best way to grow your wealth. And oftentimes it is. Maybe diversifying in real estate might help. Maybe diversifying in the stock market or insurance or whatever. There's so many opportunities. And when you can sit down and build out a full-fledged financial plan with a professional advisor who has your best interest at heart and a fiduciary duty to help you build your wealth the max possible degree with the least possible risk, it's like there's so many options we can take. I'm not going to be the first person to say let's put all of our money in GameStop stock. But I think there are opportunities that are out there to make your money work for you. And it doesn't have to just be the practice. So that's where a lot of the dentists we work with, we leverage alternative methods of investment to grow their wealth in other ways. So while their hands are in their patients' mouths, yeah, they're making money with their business, but they're also making money elsewhere with their money.
Right. And that's kind of the thing that that's pretty much where you come in on all of this, is how do you make the money that you earn work for you even more? And you are the guy that, I typically refer to when I have questions about, hey, what should we do here? What's kind of my personal financial decisions, right? Because you tend to know, okay, well, if you're planning for these different things, here's the most efficient way to achieve those goals. So
Yes, yeah, and gosh, it's such an awesome job and super fulfilling. I mean, you mentioned that dentists often will do dentistry to help others. I mean, it's the same thing. I can go home knowing it's rewarding. People are achieving their goals. I'm seeing people retire, helping them retire. It is a fun job and super helpful. So yeah,
that's cool. That's awesome. Okay, well, we're coming to the last. I promise you guys, this is the last two slides. So there's this slide where we just have our final thoughts here. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? Kind of last message. Everything was a blur and I don't remember anything. If I go home with one thing tonight, what should I learn from you?
yeah. Regarding this conversation, because there's so many things that I can, so much knowledge I can drop, John. The most important thing for today, talking about debt, is there is good debt, bad debt. There are people who use debt in a bad way and a good way. Think of it this way: if you're a business owner, or if you're anybody, can you use someone else's money, the bank? Can you use their money to make more money? If you can, it might be a good opportunity, especially if it's low risk. Okay, so debt can be really good, really, really, really good. Student loans in this case can be good. Business loan can be good. As far as the main things that I want everyone to learn is that you don't have to figure this all out on your own. There's a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there. Great, more power to you. But none of us really have all the time in the world to learn all the tax code, learn all the investment strategies, and learn all about debt management. I mean, utilize professionals. And if you guys can walk away with one thing, it's like, I don't have to know everything. In fact, it's not efficient for me to know everything because I can't. So let's leverage other people, give it to them, and work with people we trust. So that's another part that I help people with that we can talk about another time. And we have talked about with the group. Choose people you trust and leverage mentors and professionals. So the last couple, I mean, is it worth it to be a dentist? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
It definitely is. I think that if you enjoy dentistry, it is worth it, right? I mean, there are obviously people that get in here thinking that it's just easy money, but they hate dentistry. I do not advise people to do that. But I don't advise anybody to jump into a career that they hate just to earn the money, right? I think that dentistry is an awesome field, but you truly have to enjoy what you're doing day to day. And then, yeah, I mean, on top of that, I just think that there is a certain level of opportunity that dentistry still has while still being in the field of healthcare. Some healthcare is so restricted to being in a hospital based off of all the equipment and gadgets that they need that they can't expand outside of that hospital setting. dentistry is in this cool realm where we do have that opportunity to be in clinics that are outside and run things according to the way that we would prefer them to be run. And so I always encourage people to take advantage of that opportunity that dentists have. Short story long, dentistry is worth it.
It is. It is. Well, and honestly, just the freedom of a dentist. I mean, to start work at 7 and leave at 2 or 3. I mean, that type of work-life balance, it's really unheard of in the medical industry with most other professions that
Yeah,
pay them well.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a father he's a cancer doctor and he works crazy hours, and he loves what he does, but he works crazy hours. So we should definitely feel blessed to be in this field of dentistry where um, it's different. We can work normal hours and receive a lot of income for doing it. So, lastly, I'm heading to clinic here soon. So do you need a dentist? You can give me
I
your
do.
money.
I need a dentist. Yeah. I think yeah, you're gonna be the right one. I'll fly down to San Antonio
There we go.
for 6 months.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much again, Cody, for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. I wanted to leave everybody with Cody's face again up here, plastered on the side with his contact information. I seriously encourage you guys. I really want you guys to reach out to him. He is a wealth of knowledge. And he's just a great guy. He's pretty cool. So he will be willing to talk to you guys and help you out with any questions that you have. Cody, anything?
Yeah, yeah, that's all. And honestly, time, I don't charge for time. I mean, you guys are doing really good work. I love working with students. I love teaching. So education is what I do. If you just want to learn, let's talk. It doesn't cost you anything, and besides some time. So, thank you for the opportunity, John, and hopefully I get to do this again.
Of course. Yeah, we'll have you down here sometime.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Take care.
All right, see ya.